Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to some very delightful fan art of Female Killer, and then the entire Tarkov Reddit losing their minds. Otherwise known as a Tarkov video. Have you ever had a frustrating night of raids, where you just can't seem to stay alive no matter how hard you try? Well, it's fair to say about 99.99% of us end up having times like that, and the 0.1% of you that don't, stop killing me in labs, you feckit! Yes, surviving in Tarkov is hard, especially from the outset as a new player. There are a number of hardcore survival shooters out there, but none really test your mettle quite as much as Escape from Tarkov. What with the fear of losing your gear and having to start all over again, but the fear coupled with combat anxiety is often what leads us to our penultimate death. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks to help avert the oncoming plague of death. These tips will be a mishmash of things that new players should definitely pay attention to, and things that you can utilize once you have more knowledge, because here at the Top Hatters, we know everyone occasionally needs some help, whether you're a new player or a veteran. So starting straight off, some information that will help anyone playing Tarkov for the first time. Before we get into a raid, we want to know what our goal is. Do we want to fight, or do we want to guarantee our exit? Because if we want to guarantee our exit, fighting may not always be the best case. So the first big tip is to set yourself a goal. Decide where you want to go on the map. Know what it is you want to achieve. Do you just want to explore? Do you want to potter around and just learn the layout? Or do you want to find someone and pop them in the head with a friggin' 9mm? Often going into a raid haphazardly isn't the best of moves. But knowing what you want, where you want to go, and the mission objective you want to achieve will help you, and also streamline the process of getting from A to B. Now, admittedly, sometimes you just want to get in and just want to see what happens. At the end of the day, the world's your oyster, but having a goal is far better than not having a goal, and makes a massive difference in your survivability. The first big tip that kind of goes in relation to what we were talking earlier, and often underappreciated by newer players, is that you don't always have to fight. Yes, this is a game about guns, this is a game about violence, but sometimes staying alive is more of the priority, especially when you want to improve your bank. Sometimes it's better to lay low and let other players pass you so they can go about their own thing. They are likely looking for PvP or have other intentions and goals within that raid. If you stay out of sight and out of mind, they're only going to engage you if you make it possible for them. I mean, it sounds like being bullied in school, doesn't it? But the point being is you don't always have to engage in a fight, and staying alive is often more the key here. So when you're pillaging resort or grabbing resources from interchange, if you hear other people coming and you're set on getting out with all that loot you've picked up, don't be afraid to run it away or hide somewhere. At the end of the day, for you to make money, you need to not lose your gear. Even if you're running low eco, sometimes it's better to just let the PvP happen around you and elsewhere, whilst giving you the chance to fill your bags and make some money. One way that we can mitigate the chance of being seen and mitigate the chance of losing all our crap and having to start over again is to hug the outer walls of the maps you go to. All maps are like arenas, and if we have our back to a wall, it gives us a much smaller area that we have to be keeping our eye on. Visually, we can only see in a 180-degree fashion or thereabouts, if you catch my drift. Usually, this then allows you to more safely traverse the larger maps, and usually following the outer walls will lead you to evacs in their own right once you're done looting. So whenever you want to get out, whenever you want to play safe, find a wall and follow it. It may take a little while until you've learned all the extract locations for a map, but walls and the outside edge will always, in general, lead you to an exit. Another point, which is a bit more obvious and may seem a bit pedantic, is preparation. It's surprising how easy it is to die due to lacking in prep. Always know what you're getting into before you leave off. Again, kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier. If it's a larger map like Shoreline or Customs, where the distance from spawn to extract is large, you want to take that into consideration. Make sure to bring food, water, and the latest edition of Heat magazine. The last thing you want is to get halfway across the map and die due to dehydration because some douchebag shot you in the leg. Additionally to that, having the keys and knowledge of the evac points will always be a pivotal part in getting out alive. I.e., knowledge is power. There's nothing wrong with doing your research, and research will often lend you to knowing exactly where you gotta go and how you gotta do the do. One way to make this easy is to make a checklist. And following a checklist will make sure you have a preparation procedure that will reduce the possibility of going in unprepared. Starting with heal. making sure your character is fully healed to full and that you have all the medication on you that you would require. Hydrate. Make sure your character is fully hydrated, because sometimes your character may not be fully hydrated when you go to a raid, so making sure you're fully topped off before you go in is important. Gear. Make sure you have all your guns, equipment, and all that other guff attached to you. The last thing you want to go in is to go into a raid and remember you forgot your bags. Then you want guns. Guns are important. Well, unless you're running a hatchling run, in which case, fuck you, but that's beside the point. Make sure you bring guns. You want to defend yourself against all other people that have guns. Grenades. Never forget grenades if you have them. Grenades can be a pivotal part in making or breaking an engagement. Meds. Make sure you have meds. Meds are pivotal to making sure you don't act the deads. Then you want ammo. Always have spare ammo in your backpack, in your stash, or wherever else. Just make sure you have some spare ammo to pack mags mid-raid. Just a simple list like this makes forgetting things much harder and generally means you're less likely to fail to your own stupidity. Another thing that will always help with surviving, whether it's when you're in combat, on a loot run, or anything like that, running and rushing is more likely to give away your location. When traversing through loot locations or engaging in a firefight, running in like Leroy Jenkins isn't usually the best idea. A lot of the time, we get the idea that you can run in like a champ and be fine because we see the big name elite players being able to Rambo it like a champ. I can assure you that these elite players are the few that can. Just because they can does not mean you can. For the most of us, we need to play this game like it's intended, strategically. So play strategically. So when you don't have information, when you are suspicious, or you think there might be even the slightest possibility of an enemy being nearby, just slowing down and taking your time can make a world of difference to your survivability. On top of that, taking things slowly will allow you to make more strategic decisions, strategic, when engaging an enemy, and generally give you a leg up to those that aren't taking things a bit more strategically. I mean, this is a realistic military shooter after all. People running around like headless chickens are usually getting shot at because they're running around like headless chickens. You don't see the Marines running around like headless chickens, do you? The next mucho grande tip is don't overstay your welcome. When you kill a PMC or an NPC or a DVD, knowing what's worth taking and what isn't means you'll spend less time looting. I'm sure we've all had that time where we start looting a corpse and die due to having our asses in the air like we just don't care. Complacency is the killer of all players. When you kill a player, even if you think they're on their own, reposition. You never know when their friend is about to come around the corner and pop a cap in your ass. Even if you shoot and miss, reposition. Always be on the move. Just sitting there and waiting is going to allow other players to lock onto your location and pinpoint where you are. When engaging in a firefight, do not re-peek. Re-peeking is the leading cause of head-related fatalities in the workplace. When engaging an enemy, repositioning and gaining advantages from different angles is the best way to stay alive and keep your enemy guessing. Also, when engaging in a fight, don't be afraid to run the hell away. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, but in a firefight situation. Sometimes a long commute to a different location is all it'll take to keep you alive. Staying in the same location means your enemy doesn't have to guess as much as to where you're going to poke your head out next. Additionally, knowing the commute points to a map and the high traffic areas will help you avoid running into unwanted sweaty chads. Use your ears. Ears are important, and even utilizing a basic pair of contacts can make a huge difference. Each of the different variants will give slightly different semantics as to what kind of sound they will allow you to pick up more easily. And even the cheapest pair will help you hear footsteps from further away. And with that being said, if your aim is to stay alive and get loot, use the sound of distant gunfire to dictate your path. Also, when engaging in a firefight, verify the enemy you're fighting. It's all well and good wanting a fight, but if your enemy is wearing level 6 armor and you have a Makarov, your chances of winning a straight up fight is highly unlikely. The joyous thing in Tarkov is that at any point you can, in theory, come out victorious, even against said sweaty boys. But if your aim is to get loot, just run. Or if you're looking for a fight, you can verify the sweatiness and you can judge whether you'll be going for headshots or leg shots. Because we all know that in Tarkov there's no such thing as leg armor. So you utilize the verification of your enemy to dictate your strategies. And I know this need not be said, but I'm going to say it anyway because I see so many people who've come from other games like Call of Duty and have picked up a real military shooter and have no idea what the word cover means. But when engaging, always utilize cover and the surroundings. This is not Call of Duty. You can't just stand in the middle of a field firing guns and expect everything to be okay. And you don't just regenerate health whilst you're in cover. Cover is key. So use cover. It is important. I cannot stress that enough. Seriously. So I'm going to be having a video running in the background, and I'm going to break down the processes and the general strategy you'll use when engaging in a firefight. Again, this is something more subjective, we all have our playstyles, but I think it's worth having a process that you go through when you engage some other enemies. First of all, verification. Know where the enemy is and how many there are. If there are too many, or we do not feel confident in our strategy and our position, we move, we run, we go somewhere else, we do not engage. If we feel like we can take the enemy in a firefight, then we look for cover. We find somewhere we can gain strategical advantage over the enemy, where we'll expose less of our body. Once we've found said cover and we know we can start engaging the enemy, we verify the enemy that is most likely to be the biggest of our targets. When the shooting begins, if the enemy have gained our location and know where we are, we don't want to keep our head open for long, because if the enemy is fully kitted and it's taking more than a couple bullets to kill them, it will only take them a couple of seconds to train their guns on us. So we poke out with the element of surprise, we shoot off some rounds. If they die, great. If not, then we poke our head back in to try and conceal our body. Once that's done, we can take advantage of other positions we can move to, or if we make that decision, we can then run away. Either way, the start of an engagement is the most important. At any time, you need to decide if it's worth running or not. If you feel like you can put pressure, then you always want to. Keep making sure that the enemy are always guessing is equally as important as well. So the TLDR of a firefight is verify, cover, shoot, cover. And then from there, the world's your oyster. It's down to personal preference and playstyle that will lead you from that point. In this firefight in particular, I had the strategic advantage of knowing that the enemy did not know where I was. So rather than just running out head first and Leroying, I decided to play strategically, waiting a little bit longer for him to come my way, and then popping out at the last minute. In this game, there is something called Peeker's Advantage, meaning we get a slight delay before they verify that we're there. So in that time, we poke out, we pop him in the head. If he hadn't have gone down in those first couple of shots, I would have instantly ducked down to the room to the left. But because of the way that we have this fight going, I knew that he was going to die. So I put the pressure on and I moved in for the kill. Again, these firefights and the engagement of a fight can be dictated by going through your process as quickly as possible. The quicker you go through your process and the quicker you learn to process a fight, the better your engagement will be. And that is how you stay alive in a fight. Admittedly, at any time should you not be confident, the best solution is always to run. You're better to live and fight another day than dying and losing all your gear. Really, this last little segment is a bit of a waffle, but it's to prove a point. All of this comes down to retraining how other games have taught you how to play shooters. The biggest point of all of this is the practice is key, and learning the niche mode of Tarkov will take time. Get in, get experience, and you'll realize what I mean by this. Tarkov does not pull any punches when it comes to expecting you to utilize what the game's mechanics offer. So when you play a realistic military shooter, you want to play it more realistically. So I hope this video has been useful. If you feel like dropping by our Twitch, we do Twitch streams for Tarkov every single day, where people like new players and vets alike can join us and take part. And I hope this video has helped you in any way. If it has, make sure you like, subscribe, and come by our Twitch streams, and maybe also follow my Twitter, which will be linked down below. And I will see all of you top hatters in the next video. Ta-ra!